Calling all beings. Calling all beings.
Yeah! Woo! Welcome back, baby, to Calling All Beings. I'm your host, DJ, and we bring in the female power tonight, aren't we, Money?
We are. I think that's what you said.
They're going to show you how this is done. All right. So right there's my co-conspirator, Money Nathan. We're back. His beard looks great. His hair looks great. He's got the background of Bigfoot background. I love it.
I want to have that every time we do a Bigfoot show now. I just love it.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Can I get an amen?
Can't beat it.
Also with us this evening is our researcher, the soul of the show, a study of UAPs, the host of Deb's Data Dojo. And I'll tell you what, if you're interesting and you're out there, Deb's coming after you. Put your hands together. What's up, Deb?
Hi, I was just thinking I might need to change my avatar, add some hair for Bigfoot players.
I hear you, man. Get the Bigfoot thing on. We have with us the host of Bigfoot Crossroads, a new cabbie, the Bigfoot correspondent. He has many titles. We might call him the prodigal son-in-law of Cab. Mr. Matt Knapp.
The son-in-law.
Right. Son outlaw. What's up, Matt?
I've been called things that started with son before, but it did not end with in-law.
Your sense of humor, man, it's just... Nathan, he's got a very similar sense of humor, yes, to you. I know. I love it, man. You guys are brothers from other moms. All right, so check this out, Nathan. Mm-hmm. Look what's going down there on the bottom of the screen tonight.
A lot of activity. I like it.
Let me tell you what's happening, man. These girls from Minnesota/North Dakota, my homegirl, Jena, crawled up in the crib. Yo, Bigfoot, where you at? Holmes, I'm in your crib, man. I'm finna lay down in the rack. Where you at? Come get it. All right, that's how fearless this girl is. So party people, put those hands together for the She-Squatchers, Jena, and Tammy. Can I get an amen for the She-Squatchers?
Amen.
Yes. Man. Jena, you some kind of badass girl, man. You're up in the crib, man, where they lay down.
That's right.
Come on, Bigfoot, where you at? Girlfriend, I'm in the crib.
Well, at the time, I tell you what, I wasn't very nervous, but now that I look back at pictures, I kind of think, what the heck are they doing?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I looked nuts. When I saw the photos, I was like, Nathan, you're like looking around. You're like, man, I hope they're not coming back, man, because I'm doing this photo op right here, checking out the bed, seeing how. Mm-hmm. It's like, man, we're out, man. We're going back to the car, man. This is good enough for one expedition.
Right.
No, it wasn't good enough.
Is it like
for
a
Jena.
sort of sleeper though, or is it like a sleep number bed? What kind of bed is that?
Honestly, I would have to actually test a bunch of those to actually tell you a good answer. But it felt nice. I could have fallen asleep right on that.
I love that.
Right on the ground.
It felt like a memory foam that had really nice softness to it.
There you go.
See, there you go, Jen. I mean, you got guys like Matt Knapp that are buying the purple mattress with this sort of cellular technology. Meanwhile, Bigfoot's out there just winding up some branches, and this shit feels great, man.
Well, there were no branches.
No. What was it? Was it
on the bottom? It was the dirt was worked up really deep, and so it was like super, super soft. Uh-huh. And I actually showed it to my neighbor at my office, and I told him how soft it was. It was just incredible. It was way different than the soil outside of it. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, Jen, and he taught survival in the Army. He's like, Jen, in Minnesota, you have to work up the ground about 7-8 inches down. Mm-hmm. Or if you sleep on it in the cooler months, it's going to pull the heat right out of you and you'll die before you wake up.
That's right. You got to have that air barrier underneath you that you can warm that air and it'll sort of keep you warm and not transfer that heat. Yeah.
And that had been done there.
Incredible. I mean, look, he's got a career, I think, in mattress sales if he needs one. That's what it sounds like, right?
Let's go check this dude out, man. Bigfoot, what's up, man? Anyway, all right, let me pass this off to my man, Money Nathan. I tell you what, I know I want to go directly into the first encounter to the remote viewing, but Nathan got to go where Nathan got to go.
Yeah, I mean, look, we in a world of He-Squatchers, there's a lot of He-Squatchers out there. We've got the She-Squatchers, and I love that. Love the name. It's so great to have you guys with us. Can you give us a short intro? How did you guys get together? How did you decide to do this as a team? I mean, it's a big effort to do investigations, period. But when you're trying to coordinate schedules and go out and do expedition things, how does that work for y'all?
Definitely, it's interesting trying to coordinate everything. But I'm a psychic medium. We all are. And prior to doing Bigfoot, I was doing paranormal work and missing persons cases. And I had a paranormal radio show, and I happened to score an in-person sit-down interview with Lauren Coleman, the cryptozoologist who has the International Cryptozoology Museum in the state of Maine. Go check it out. And I had this interview with him, and I admittedly didn't know hardly anything about Bigfoot. I'd maybe watched a handful of episodes on Finding Bigfoot while I was playing on my phone. So I really didn't know much. I didn't believe in Bigfoot. I hadn't really thought about whether or not Bigfoot was real. I just assumed it was not. And so when I interviewed him, he spent that hour telling me all about Bigfoot and that Bigfoot was in my home state of Minnesota. He assured me that he was and encouraged me to go out with some ladies because he felt that sending women into the woods without men, dogs, or guns would be the recipe for success in interacting and getting closer to Bigfoot. He thought they would be more interested in getting a little closer to check out some ladies in the woods. So, I jokingly said, "Hey there, big boy, pick me, pick me." And I was joking. But by the end of the show, I honestly volunteered. I said, "All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I will find some ladies and go out into the woods in Minnesota and check this out." Now, on top of his idea of sending women into the woods without men, dogs, or guns, I'm like, well, hey, we're psychic. I'm psychic. Might as well use that as our advantage because I'm not the stamina girl in the woods. I'm not going to go walking 10 miles. My goal is to find them before we get there and get out of the car and park as close as we can get and get there quick. Surprise, we're here. And most people, when they're walking through the forest, they're not looking for Bigfoot. They're just hiking or whatever they're doing. And if you're getting out of the car, parking really close as you can get to it, and you can park close, there are ones that are close to the roads, or what I would consider driving on anyway. It's not really a road. But
you can fit your vehicle on it, but yeah, got it.
Barely.
Yeah, there are videos on our YouTube channel of the video of us driving on these not roads. The trees are scraping up against the car. And yeah, I have a very rusty vehicle now. Thank you.
Minimum maintenance road.
It wasn't even a minimum maintenance road. It's not even minimum maintenance. It's not marked at all.
Was it? So it wasn't even a road, right?
Huh? It was trails that were made by local natives on the reservation to go get down trees for firewood. So they were homemade trails basically through the woods. And there is Sugar Bush Camp back there for those who are familiar with what that is, where they actually set up camp in the woods and tap all the maple trees and start making maple syrup in the woods.
Nice. There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen, is this the one where a couple of those girls are like, when they started getting closer, like, I don't want to see Bigfoot anymore, and they're like, okay. And then these girls did.
That was the first time.
Okay.
The not minimum maintenance road, the non-road road, that was Jena and I.
Okay.
And we were on my reservation. I'm an enrolled tribal member at the Red Lake Band of Chippewa Indians in northern Minnesota, and it is a closed reservation, so you can't just go there and get out of your car and go in the woods without a tribal member with you. So it's kind of the forbidden land for Bigfoot. Place.
Sorry.
Oh, you do that so well.
He pays me a lot for this, so
It's true. Yeah.
Anyway, so in 2015 was the interview with Lauren, and inspired me to go out and give it a try. The ladies that I chose were paranormal investigators. I figured they had night vision cameras, and so we'd need that to see in the woods. Didn't know that those cameras wouldn't light up the woods like they did haunted houses. That was something we found out when we got there in the moment, and we were getting surrounded and we couldn't see what it was. But those ladies, for the most part, were terrified. That first experience, we had rocks being thrown at us. We were in the woods by a lake, but it was thick woods, and the road also on a reservation, the next reservation over. It's called Reservation Highway 20. And let me just tell you, it's a 1-car road. One. If you meet somebody needs to back up. And it isn't me, because I don't do that very well. And
yeah, she
just
doesn't.
being honest, parallel parking also not in my forte. So we were on this little road, and we were parked in there, and we drove through there around this whole lake in the daytime. And I'm also an energy worker. That's my business. And I can feel energy as a physical sensation. It's not just, hey, you give me good vibes. It's literally my body's vibrating. And it's a physical sensation. And everything has its own energy frequency that it vibrates at. So when we were doing this, I said, I want to tune into the energy frequency of Bigfoot, whatever that is. That's what I asked to be tuned into. And so we'd stop along the way, and we'd get out and look, and we'd look to see if there were footprints anywhere and in any interesting spots. And we stopped at this one spot that I had this energy sensation that I had never felt before. And we looked around, didn't see anything that would lead us to believe that Bigfoot was there. But because that energy sensation was so prominent there, I dropped a GPS pin on it, and I said, we're coming back here tonight. And we kept looking throughout the day. We did find some footprints at the top of the lake, on 6 Mile Lake in Minnesota. There's at the very top, there's this little tiny bridge with gravel on it that crosses where the waterway comes in. And there were actually some footprints in the gravel where it had crossed the bridge when it was wet and then it dried. They weren't like indented down. It wasn't like a deep gravel situation. You could barely see them, but when you walked and turned and looked, you could see them clearly. And me being the tallest girl there, 5'9", I started to see, can I match this stride? So I took a running, and I'm leaping. No way did I even come close.
Wow.
So anyway, we go back at night when it's dark, and it's so dark you can't see anything. We turned off the lights on the car, parked the car in the middle of the road because there's nowhere else to put it. Get out of the car, and one of the girls hands me a thermal camera that she borrowed from somebody. She didn't even really know how to use it. All she knew is you pull the trigger and it takes a picture. Had a tiny little 2-inch screen on it. Very cheap little FLIR camera. So she hands it to me. I'm excited to have a FLIR in my hand. I've never played with a thermal before. So I'm scanning the woods hoping to see anything. A bunny, a deer, a raccoon, anything. I just want to see something. And I'm scanning. And then I get out and I'm scanning out in front of the car. Now, everybody else, all the other ladies that were with me, went to the back hatch to get their stuff. I had mine on me. So I'm just playing. Scan out in front of the car, and there's somebody standing out there on the left side, like just outside the trees. And we are in the middle of nowhere. It's the middle of the week. It's not even the weekend. Nobody knows that we're there, right? And so I'm just like, yeah, I just don't know. Like, I thought it was somebody on the team. I thought that was one of the girls standing out there because, thermal, you can't really tell who it is. And I was like, hey, who's out in front of the car? And nobody said anything. And I said, who's in front of the car? And nobody said anything. I'm like, hey, who's in front of the car? And, I was getting nervous because nobody's saying anything. And all of a sudden, Marlo, she heard that I was feeling nervous, and she comes running up and she looks at the screen that I'm looking at, and she sees what I'm seeing there. And she looked up from there and she gasped and she said, "Oh, I just saw eyes." And so I'm like, "Really?" So I like dropped the camera and I looked directly at it to see if I could see eyes, and I didn't. And then I put the camera back up and couldn't find it again. It was gone. So it stepped into the trees. And so then what do? We decide, hey, let's go over there and walk in the woods. And
Yeah,
so,
hey, let's go after it.
Sure,
yeah,
yeah,
let's go
yeah.
after it. So we go, 3 of us, Marlo and I can't remember who the third, maybe it was Kimberly, but we walked over and started walking in there, and we hear something. And so we stop. We're like, "What is that?" And we hear something coming through the branches, and here it's something drops on the ground like 3 feet in front of us and bounces. And I look at it and I'm like, "Is that a rock?" And Marlo's like, "I think that is a rock." And I'm just like dumbfounded. And then we hear something else coming through the branches, and it bounces, another rock bounces right next to it, and then another one. And I was like, "What's going on?" And now, granted, I'm telling you, I didn't know anything about Bigfoot. I didn't know that they were known for throwing rocks at people. So I'm just like, "What is going on? What's throwing rocks at us?" And and it had very good aim. It obviously wasn't trying to hit us.
Yeah.
It was very much a warning, don't walk this way, is how I felt. So I'm like, I'm feeling like they don't want us to walk this way. So let's back up. So we back up onto the road. And so we're standing there going, now what do we do? And one of the girls says, "Hey, why don't we do a Bigfoot call like they do on TV?" And I'm like, "Great, go ahead." And so she does a whoop, like she did. And she tried really hard. And so here we are, all with our cameras facing out, thinking we're going to hear something coming from the left side of the road where that Bigfoot had disappeared, where the rocks were coming from. And instead, we're hearing some movement from the right side of the road in the woods. And something is walking. Something large is walking. It has 2 feet and it stomps. Big sticks are cracking and snapping as it's walking. And we all turned and pointed our cameras that way. Couldn't see a thing. Those cameras don't light up the woods like they do haunted houses. What a waste of time. We're like, can you see it? I can't see anything. Can you see it? And it didn't penetrate the woods. And so we're all pointing the cameras at the sound that we're hearing. And then all of a sudden, that sound of something walking towards us multiplied. And now there's something walking towards us from different directions. And so then we circled up back to back facing out, which we didn't plan. We just automatically did that. I think it's survival something instinct. And then we were trying to see whatever was coming, and we couldn't see it. And the girls were getting really, really scared, which I understand. And I'm like, "Stop being scared." And so then one of the girls said, Jen, do your tobacco thing. And what she meant was do your native prayer. And so she's seen me do it before, put tobacco in my left hand, and I started to speak out loud in the Ojibwe language. I did a very formal introduction of myself and my wa'a and where I come from. And I started listing my ancestors, which is a very old protocol greeting where you just keep naming people till they know who you are.
Wow.
And and then as soon as I said miigwech, memegeshig, which is thank you to the nature spirits, basically. And then I said miigwech ketsisabe, which is thank you to Bigfoot. And as soon as I said that, thank you to Bigfoot in the Ojibwe language, all the sound and the movement stopped all at once. It just silent. It didn't retreat. It didn't come further. It just was silent. And I'm like, yes. And I was excited because the elders from one of the reservations told me that you could pray to Bigfoot for help and they will help you. And so I honor and cherish everything that they share with me, but I'm very rational thinking person. At the same time, I really need to see it. I really need to have that experience to really fully grasp it and understand what they're talking about. So I cherish everything they tell me, but I need to have that experience. And so this was me having that experience because it reacted to me thanking them by stopping.
Nathan, I ought to try this. I go, hey, my father was Donnie from Brooklyn. My grandfather's Johnny from Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh, wait, they're still coming.
Yeah.
Well, and now you can say, hey, I know the She-Squatchers.
There you go.
exactly. Hey, I noticed She-Squatchers, Jenna, and Tammy over there. Leave me alone, all right? Anyway, all right. Let me get Debs and Matt in here. Debs, okay, remote viewed their way to this location. Use a little tobacco ceremony. What are you thinking, Debs?
Actually, I'm fascinated by the gifts that you all bring to this research. I was
Yeah.
looking at the bios on your website, She-Squatchers.com, and I was really interested in, the fact that there were NDE experiences, their spiritual psychic medium experiences. I would love to know more about the geographic remote viewing that you guys are doing. I want to know more about, like, because I really do believe everything's a crossover. I want to know why you also ended up going for Bigfoot with all of those gifts too, but I'd more so like to know about your personal gifts. Thank you.
Those gifts were something I was using to look for missing persons and helping paranormal teams I'd look at a space before they went there, and I'd tell them what happened there, what was happening there, what I sensed, and what was the problem and what they could do to remedy it. Or I would just interact with the spirits remotely as well. So, but doing missing persons cases, although I helped find some people, they were always dead, and it was very sad. And I don't like connecting with dead energy. And when I was younger, it was better. I didn't feel the drain on my own life energy, but now I feel the drain. And I was told by a really, really amazing psychic years ago that if you work with dead energy, it's going to kill you early. It's zapping your energy. And I didn't believe that. I disagreed. I said, I don't agree with that at all. I don't feel a drain at all. I feel great. And she goes, that's because you're still young. And she assured me that it was true, that all of her psychic friends were dead and she was the only one left. It wasn't until I started having diabetes that I started to feel the drain. So I don't really like working with dead energy so much anymore. I mean, I will do it on occasion, but I have to be feeling good. If I have a cold or the flu or something like that, or if I'm super, super tired, I'm not going to do it.
This was an issue during my dating life. A lot of girls would say, DJ, you have a lot of dead energy. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't get it. Anyway, Jenna, to Deb's question to you, and then Tammy.
Boy, basically, I think she was just asking what our gifts are, or
Yes.
okay. Well, as a young girl, I used to gravitate toward healing immediately. I mean, if my aunt would have problems with her hands, I was young and I would just be, I just felt the need to heal them. So I put my hands on her, and every time she'd say, "How do you do that?" Not, "Oh, you didn't know." And when you have gifts like that, you don't know who to talk to. So for the longest time, I was dealing with all that myself, and I had to create my own kind of resources and learn for myself. And so, yeah,
That's
boy,
an amazing talent.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Go on.
No, ma'am. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I call myself a jack of all trades, and I don't like the word psychic. I say I'm a receiver of information, because that's what I am. Whether it's prophecy, giving someone a message from someone who's passed in their life, or help crossing people over, it all comes as it's needed, and it's always to help others. So,
Beautiful.
yeah.
That's so nice. Very kind. Julie in the chat is another healer and remote viewer. So she practices a lot of the same modalities you do. She actually healed me one time when when my leg was hurting really bad. Tammy, tell us about your gifts, other than a beautiful head of hair that you have going on there.
That's because I'm a Leo. Thank you.
Woo!
Anyway, yes, for me, I've had paranormal experiences since I was young. Like my first major one was when I was 4 years old. So I've been surrounded by entities my entire life. I see them all. I don't see all the spirits all the time, but I see both light and dark and human and non-human and all the things. So, and I have experience with all of them. I'm also a healer, but also medical intuitive. I can scan someone's body and tell them which areas they should probably have looked at by the doctor. I don't like to diagnose people. Sometimes spirit will talk through me and say words that I don't understand. So I will tell them. And then they're like, oh, yeah, that means this and that means that, and I've had them have me tell people, you've got cancer, you need to go get that checked out. But it was like a big, long word. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. So that was just their way of making sure that I told them. But I can also talk to animals. I'm not like Dr. Doolittle, but I can communicate with animals. They understand when I speak to them. And I have helped more than one stuck animal, bird, whatever, that's stuck in a building or something, help them get out and just, let me pick you up. I won't hurt you, kind of thing. And I used to do live readings. I used to do tarot readings, live readings on the phone, online. I did that for a long time. But what I found from that is people don't want the truth. People want you to tell them what they want to hear. And when you don't tell them what they want to hear, then they get mad. So, yeah, that became too much for me. And I was like, nah. So now I stick with, I can see auras and we do the remote viewing. And, we all use our gifts together. And that makes us a much stronger presence as a group.
Wonder Twin powers activate. Let me say one thing I was going to ask you, and this is just off the cuff. I'm going to pass it over to Matt next, but I watched that series. I don't know if it was Netflix, 28 Days Haunted, where these various women and men mediums went into a house using the Warren theory of, you spend 28 days, maybe you can convince the spirit to leave, etc. And there was one woman there when they asked her to connect with the spirit through the mirror. Do you know what that's called? Because she's like, hell no, I'm not doing that. Have you guys ever heard of that?
A portal?
Yes, this is the mirror, but it's some sort of a technique that, and but yeah, they said that it's a portal. But do you know what that technique is called, or does that one not resonate with you? No, it sounded scary. She's like, hell no, I'm not doing it. I will do it with a candle, but I will not. I don't do mirrors. I'm not opening up that portal of the mirror. But anyway,
yeah,
it's a good series, man.
Mirrors are already portals.
Yeah,
mirrors are already portals, so it just takes just a little bit of attention to them for them to be like, "Oh, she sees us. Let's go."
Yeah, I'm like, no, we're good, man. We're good. Matt Knapp.
What up? I don't know what the technique's called, but the apparatus is called a phantasmagoria.
Really?
Yes. Just a little bit of worthless knowledge for you.
Because you've done some paranormal as well, right, Matt?
I've dabbled.
Okay.
Just dealing with it in a life basis, not really seeking it out, but just being around it all the time.
Nathan, we're so deficient. We have none. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Only normal. That's what I have. Yeah.
Nathan, don't be alarmed. But there's a Sasquatch right behind you.
Run.
Go ahead, Matt.
Ladies, more people from the actual Bigfoot world. Wow. This is odd for me. So many questions. I guess I'll start with just as a group, what's your objective with all of this? What is your goal? If you could have the best possible outcome to your group, what would it be?
I think we just have questions that we want answers for. And I've been telling the girls since we came together to do this together as a group that we need to not be so concerned about what other people think. We can go out there and look for the answers that we want to find, and we can share what we find. But that's where it kind of ends. People are either going to believe in it or not. They're either going to believe in our gifts or they're not. And I always say, you don't have to believe in remote viewing. You don't have to believe in psychics. You don't have to believe in any of that. Just when I tell you there's something there and the GPS coordinate, and then we go there and there's something there, hey, that should tell you something, that works. And I'm going to tell you right now, the first time that I geographic remote viewed a location, which is I literally do with Google Maps, satellite imagery. I'm looking at locations and I'm asking questions and I'm receiving answers. And I've always been attracted to looking at things from the air. So this is something I've done since I was a little girl, but I used to do it with maps and atlases. Okay. And now I do it with satellite imagery, and I can literally knock down a location with a GPS coordinate. So it's working really well. So I was looking at an area that we were going to go check out, and I saw a Bigfoot on the remote view, a very large, angry looking male. And I was like, oh, he's scary. And it was showing me his territory. And then I saw like a little path that like went by in the woods, and I'm like, is that a road? It's not marked as a road. I wonder if I could drive on that. And then on the other side of that, about within 100 feet, I saw something that lit up when I asked for Bigfoot evidence that we could collect. It lit up for me, this whole huge area, and I didn't know what was there, but it kept lighting up in response to that question. So I dropped a pin on it, and I said, we're going there. Well, it wasn't until we got there, and we had Nikki driving the car so that I could have my awareness open while she was driving, because I don't drive a vehicle and open my psychic awareness fully. That's just not a safe thing to do, because you're not really fully paying attention to the driving. And so she was driving, and I had this stuff ready to go. And because my whole theory on this was park the car, get out, and run towards it. Okay, that was my theory. That was what I wanted to do. And Jena gets out of the car. She's not ready. And I said, okay, girls, if we get out of the car here to the right, within 100 feet, we're hitting that aggressive male's territory. So we probably shouldn't go that way. If we go to the left right from here, within 100 feet, we're going to find that area with the Bigfoot evidence. I'm not sure what it is, but it's definitely big. It's something is there. And so we get out of the car. I'm ready. Stuff is in hand. Jena's like getting her stuff.
I have to say, there wasn't that much discussion about getting ready and being ready at the time. She did mention it, but boy, she's going into a lot of detail now that she supposedly told me. But yes, I was not ready. I will take that.
And so when I got out of the car, I just started looking to the right, just looking to see if I could see anything back there while I was waiting for Jena. And I took a few steps, and I heard some movement that's, sounded like rocks coming. And I was like, oh, and then Nikki said, oh, I see something back there. And so I was like, duh, Jen, don't look at the aggressive male, go to the other side. And so Nikki had been looking to the left, where I had seen that there was Bigfoot evidence that we could collect. And so I go over there and I start looking, and I'm like, come on, Jena. She's like, yeah, Nikki, do you want to use my Netflix? And because Nikki didn't feel good, and it was really hot that day. So she was going to stay in the car with the central air on.
I take care of people. I love my peeps. I love my peeps.
So we, I'm like, come on, Jena. And I start seeing something moving back there. And I'm like, Jena, let's go. And I start walking towards it. And now I'm scared because I'm walking towards it, moving stuff. And I'm doing it by myself, which was not my plan. And that was not my plan. And I'm like, come on, Jena, come on. And granted, everything was moving in slow motion to me. Like, she was like, blah, blah, and
she's never going to let you
live this down,
Jena. Her.
I know. In reality, it was just really, really speedy. And I just went, blah, 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 blah. I was right behind her, and she just thinks it was slow. So I'm kidding.
Hey, Nathan, test. Has this sound lower? Is that better?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Good.
Okay, because I did it. I've adjusted it like just on the lap, but I went into the settings and tried it on the computer. So I don't want to blast you guys out because it's really annoying when someone's voice is too loud, particularly mine. So
when we started, so she finally comes, and this is funny because we were doing an interview on somebody else's show, and I wish I could remember which show it was because we could go get a clip of it. But Jena said, it's like Jen knew there was something there. She was walking straight to it. And I was like, wasn't the whole point? I said something's there within 100 feet. There's something right there. And
okay, but you have to understand. I tell people I believed in Jen at the time. I did not believe in remote viewing. I really didn't. I didn't have the belief in it. And all of a sudden, she's bringing me out 50 feet. We're finding something, and I'm going. I was shocked.
I'm sure Matt would tell you guys that there's a lot of researchers that have been out and not had a hit like on their first or even second outing, right, Matt? So this is pretty extraordinary.
I mean, there's people that are considered experts that literally live their entire lives without ever finding a track.
And we didn't know that. We didn't know it was unusual for us to be finding something every time we went out. We were like, oh yeah, this is easy. And
But your goal, what he was asking though is about your goal. Your goal for the group is what?
just to gain those answers, to share what we found, and to feel comfortable with that. This is our hobby. We enjoy it. We it's exciting to us. If we can interact and learn more about them, and that would be great. But if I'm telling you right now, if we found a Bigfoot village, I'm not going to tell you where it is.
I didn't suspect that you would. Actually, let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you of a neighbor of yours, who, our friend, who needs you guys to come up there and check out his place. And Deb and Nathan know who this is, and that is former USAF pararescueman Scott Gearin, who lives in northern Minnesota, and he sent us some tracks, and he sent us a video that had a Bigfoot howl that I thought, as a novice that doesn't know anything, sounded very authentic. So take that with a grain of salt, but that would be really cool if you guys met up with Scott. He's very famous in the Air Force community because he had basically someone fell through his parachute on a free fall, and he hit the ground doing over 100 miles an hour and survived, basically with a collapsed parachute. And he was featured on Airman magazine and all that. They showed him like what he looked like, and then what he looked like when his body was all swollen up from landing on the ground. But he's no worse for the wear, retired up in Minnesota, and lives near a state forest. His property of 40 acres backs up to a state forest, so it's quite squatchy, as he says. So he needs you guys to come up there and take a look, I think.
Definitely. Let's set it up
I will.
after the show.
I've already messaged him just a little while ago that you guys are on, and that I didn't realize these guys are Minnesotans. They got to meet up with Scott and take a look at the tracks and what he said. And I'll send you what he sent me as well. So what I want to ask you, I want to go to Tammy over here. Tammy, is there the investigations that you've done, can you tell me one thing that you feel like you've understood or connected with about Bigfoot, and something that has occurred that you don't understand? One of each.
Okay. Well, my best encounter with a Bigfoot was when we were in Tennessee on top of a mountain, and we had remote viewed at dinner this area that Jena and I had gone with one of our fellow investigators, Matthew Delph from Micro Investigations. We had gone out there during the day, and we're out there with some people, and we're like, we need to come back here at night because we saw a few things that were of interest. So we went to dinner and we remote viewed the area, and Jen found an area that she thought that there was going to be a really good chance of us getting some evidence or having an interaction. So we went up there, and when got up there, there's no lights, there's no electricity. It's on the top of a mountain. And she looks at the remote view and she's like, hey, there's one 30 feet right over there. And so I got out of the car and I had Jenna's FLIR camera, and I'm looking at, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there it is. It's right there. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to record my very first time using this FLIR camera, of course. And so I'm going through it and I'm changing the settings. I'm not hitting the record, and I'm like, hey, come over here and push record. And I was the first one out of the vehicle that time, and I was prepared. but eventually, Jena came over and she pressed the record button. But before, while I was waiting for them, he had his arm up and see all the hair hanging down. He was just lounging there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, no one's gonna believe this. Come on. And so when I started recording, we got 30 minutes of FLIR footage of Bigfoot. He did not run away. We did not try to get closer, but we were not quiet at all. He definitely knew that we were there and that we were recording. He was just like, oh man, that place would be what we're doing. But yeah, we got 13 minutes, and we had it restabilized, and I think it was like 6 or on our website that shows that.
Do you mind if I jot down what fragrance you were wearing?
I personally, Oh, Tammy. I don't know if I was wearing perfume or not. I'm just
Oh, so, all right. So we can't blame it on
anyway.
your fragrance. It was the aura. What have you not under? What have they done that's really
Yes.
surprised you that you've said, "Wow, I don't get that." She-Squatchers.com, baby.
I think that for me personally, I want to interact with them, and I'm so happy that they let us, because I know that they normally, usually people get a blob squatch. So I don't really understand why they allowed us to much others can't even get a flyby, and I'm grateful and for them for that. Definitely, I think that they know who we are. I think they know people in general, and they can tell who is good and who is not good, who has good intentions and who doesn't have good intentions for them. And I think that they know that we don't have any interest in getting them in trouble or harming them, and we just want to have answers to our questions. So I mean, yeah.
Nathan, I was gonna say I feel like Matt did a whole lot of hiking. He could have just gone out with Jen, Jenna, and Tammy, and he could have saved himself about 4 miles in the woods.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean GPS right to it.
I'm down for hiking, though.
Hey. I had my first sighting in a parking lot.
I forgot.
Okay. There you go.
Not kidding.
Go ahead, Matt, because I forgot your first outing. You had a sighting also.
Yeah, I mean, that ain't nothing.
Come on. Yeah,
I love me some Matt Knapp. He's so funny. Go ahead, Nathan.
Well, I wanted to explore the remote viewing a little bit too. Have you ever, when remote viewing a location or one of the beings, or have you ever sensed that they are aware of you in that process?
Yes.
I have. Oh.
Yeah. And actually, sometimes they do this. Because I do remote viewing for other people. And it's kind of fun to pass the time, especially in the winter when it's too cold to do that here. But yes, it gets 40 below zero here. It does happen.
Wow.
Too cold. I can barely run out to the car in that amount of time. So no, I'm not doing it. So anyway, we do remote viewing for other teams and stuff that we trust and that we know well. And there's one that I remote view for on the regular. Every time they go out, they're like, hey, we're going out. This is where we're going. And it is states away from me. So it's not like they give me any notice to get there, because I couldn't get there that quick. Anyway, and there was I know that this team is pretty, they don't push really hard, but they had Russell Acord with them one night, and I knew Russell would be a little bit more aggressive in it. Like if I said they're over there, he would probably walk right to it. And so I told them where I was seeing them, except for the ones that went shh. And they were younger ones. They were like teen kids, a group of them, and they were away from everybody else a little bit. And so I didn't even send them in that direction. And I told the one guy, I said, there's something else, but I'll tell you tomorrow. And when you guys are done.
Wow.
And so I told him the next day, that there were a group of kids, teenage, younger ones, and then where they were at. And he said, we heard something over there that sounded like talking. And I was like, yeah, they were like, shh, don't tell. So.
Wow. And is the energy that you're getting, is it how familiar does it feel? Does it feel human in any way? What's the quality to it compared to maybe human energy? Maybe that's a better way to put it.
When I'm seeing them, sometimes I'll see their facial expressions, and it tells me what to expect. Like if they look really mean, I'm like, ooh, be careful. If don't push this. This group is aggressive. I wouldn't. If they start telling you to leave, giving you signs, then back off. Don't push them. But then in the same location, sometimes I'll see different ones that are not so aggressive, or maybe they're older. And one even showed me he had no teeth. And And so if I can see their face close up enough and see that, I'm gaining more information. And so I'll tell them, this is where they're at. This is what you can expect from them. Maybe try this. Sometimes I'll even say, they're approaching the water right here, and send them the spot where they're going to the water at. Or I'll also see like what I call the Bermuda Triangle of the location, and I'll literally take a screenshot and draw a triangle on it, and like, this is your Bermuda Triangle. The weird stuff is going to happen right there. And
Wow.
so, but yeah, so I do get a sense, and I sometimes I know that they're sensing me too, because sometimes I see them wave or they point, like we went that way, or so.
Wow.
So what you see on the screen there, that's Tyler Howell. I'm going out to his research area next Saturday night. I think we're gonna do it. Hello, Tyler. What's up, brother? And I don't know, maybe Jen will remote view that area and tell us in Blackwater State Forest if they'll be like somewhere near the research area where he goes. So, but anyway, what's up? So let me pass it over to Deb's study of UAPs.
Yeah, so we kind of touched on this a little bit, but you talked a little bit about the experiencer and how that kind of creates the interaction. I was wondering if you think there's something deeper that causes or enables some people to have those experiences. Because all of you, you have the gifts you're bringing to the table, but is there something in other people, especially considering how often an experiencer has a Bigfoot experience and then another non-human intelligence interacts with them?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with the brain, and how I've been studying the brain since the 90s, and the amount of the brain that are the human brain thinks at 400 billion bytes per second. That's not its potential. That's what it's actually doing. 400 billion bytes per second. But the average human is only consciously aware of 2,000 bytes per second. So that's nothing. I tried to make a pie chart. It wouldn't even register as a single hair on a full pie chart because it's too small of a number. So that's how actually consciously aware we are of what we're seeing, what we're feeling, what we're sensing. Most people are completely unaware of most of it. So unless you're literally focusing on looking for something specific, you're probably not going to see it. You probably just walk right by it. They probably just lay right down and stay still, and you walk right past them. And that's just the way that it is. And what I tell people, being psychic is literally science. It's like looking through binoculars. That's your 2,000 bits of awareness, right? You're just looking through those binoculars. That's what you see, but you can turn your head and focus on seeing something else. What else is here? Show me something more. And anybody can do that. It seems easier for some than others. And I'm not going to lie. It's always been easy for me. It's just I was born that way. I was weird.
Well, you found your tribe here, didn't you? In
I
UFOs
did.
and Bigfoot and paranormal. I like to tell people that, like our friend Priscilla, the quantum witch, she says, and I told her about you guys, and she says, yeah, I felt like I'm weird, like I didn't belong. I was like, well, you found somewhere you belong now, that's for sure. And you all have. And boy, it's just a pleasure. You guys are gifted and able to do these things. It's awesome, and it's inspiring. So, is that all
I
you
have
had, Deb? Should I pass it to Matt, or do you have something further?
Well, I mean, I'm also interested in the comment on the webpage about female energy maybe amplifying because I'm female and I want to be Bigfoot.
You well, Lauren Coleman felt that most of the time when people see Bigfoot by roadways or whatever, it's normally a younger male, and he's probably testing his boundaries of what he's not supposed to be doing. He's not probably supposed to be there, and he felt these younger male Sasquatches would be more interested in some ladies to come a little closer. So that's what he thought that was all about, the "Hey, big boy" type thing. And the girls kind of have a theory about girl parts. Like, if you have all your girl parts, Bigfoot's gonna want you.
Wow, interesting.
The uterus, the whole works.
And I don't know if that's true or not. I think they hope that that's true.
I don't know. I can't help but wonder if maybe it's just our pheromones are sending out a message and they can smell it better than we can, and who knows? I don't know.
Yes.
Like
Well, full
hormones.
disclosure, Deb, you want the children too, though, right?
I just want to babysit, and except for the butane tank thing has thrown me off a little. I don't have those around for them to play with.
Yeah, I mean, can you guys, if there is a female Bigfoot that you guys are in, that you guys know, she would want to have a date night. Deb is available. She'd probably do like 3 hours of babysitting for not being strangled by one. So it would be good.
Deb, you're going to be the first one we call.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Maryland's owned. All right, Matt Knapp.
I'd kind of like to know what you've found or encountered in the woods that wasn't Bigfoot.
Oh, well, we found lots of things. The bears.
No.
Oh.
Cryptid wise.
Yeah, in the world of the unexplained, paranormal and stuff, because Bigfoot's obviously not the only thing out there. And if you bring these sort of gifts out there, you're bound to run across other things that people may not know are lurking in the shadows with them.
We went to that structure that Jena had gone inside of. That was the first remote view where Jena was taking her time, by the way. That was that structure that we were walking towards.
Yeah, I know, right?
There was something out back there moving around in the beginning, and she took her time, so it got away. But anyway, actually there was part of that we call a tower. It was the end of it. And it was like 2-3 stories tall, and it was trees that were teepeed together, and then there was foliage weaved together into like levels. But the bottom part of it was completely dark inside. Like it was 5.5 feet tall in there, and I couldn't see into it. And when we were approaching, the bushes right outside of it were moving. Three separate times they moved, and so I knew something was in there. And I'm like, ooh, trying to stay back but still want to see, and we get around to the side of it, and we actually had moved the sticks and we didn't realize that until later when we looked at the video, that the sticks were like poked into the ground in a crisscross fashion, making like a fence, and we're just ripping them out of the ground to walk around while I'm looking at this.
Provocation. Go ahead.
Well, I'm looking, my eyes are focused on this dark spot inside this structure, right? Because I'm like, something's in there and I don't want it to come out at me. So I'm looking at that while we're moving the sticks to get around to the other side of it. And that's where there was a structure built onto the back of that. That was the den-like structure. And it was so cool because everything was weaved together very tightly. And I actually grabbed a hold of it and shook the crap out of it, and it would not come apart.
There's a good video that you can see on. Is that on your website or your YouTube?
It's on YouTube, but I'm going to tell you that the majority of our video never made it to YouTube because look at Jena.
Me, it's all my fault again. Okay, let me just tell you, it is so hot in the summertime in Minnesota, and we have to dress like I had to dress like I was wearing cuddle duds, and they were the thinnest kind of cuddle duds, and then over that I was wearing like other clothing. Well, it was so hot that day that I decided that I was just going to put on these sticky bras. So I was just like popped them on and put on my stuff, and bada bing, bada bang.
That's a sticker for a bra.
Yes, sorry. Sticky bra. So yeah, sticky bra is like 2 stickers. So you just put them on each one, pull them up, and sticks. Right. Works great. Love them. So anyway, we were out and we're finding things, and I'm in the structure, and I'm just like, I'm so hot. I tear off my vest and my sticky bra pieces, and so I'm just in my cuddle duds, and we have great video. We have awesome video, and granted, you already know what's happening, don't you? Anyway, needless to say, we end up watching the video not too long after, and Jen's going, wow, look at that amazing structure. And I was going, you can see through my clothes. Everything was showing. You could see the dimples. And I said, no, Jen, I'm sorry. No. And so we tried to have it fixed, and it's so bad. Oh my gosh. Oh.
She's like, you can see my tots.
You could see my tots. You could. Everything. And she was like, I wasn't even looking at that. And I was like, yeah, I know.
I had to watch the video so many times and try really hard just to look at Jena, because every time I watched the video, I was like, wow, that's so cool. And I just couldn't focus on her. And she's like, Jen, look at me.
Look at it. I said, look at it. Look at it.
I'm going to tell you something. We've had groups of guests on here before. We've had duos and trios. Nathan, these have got to be the most adorable that we've ever had. Just the relationship, right?
Aww.
Absolutely. I mean, if I were a Sasquatch, I would be, totally interested in hanging out with these people.
I would want to hang out with you guys in the woods, wherever. So in the diner, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
You just want to say the sticky bras, right?
Yeah, you guys are just, the relationship between you is just, it's so collegial. It's just adorable.
We're best friends. We are best friends.
Yes.
These two girls were my best friends. They didn't know each other.
What's that? Huh?
They did not know each other, but they were my best friends.
Oh, really? And now now you're all three best friends.
We're all three. It's the perfect little triangle we've got here.
Beautiful.
And I got to tell you, as a psychic, as a gifted person, you're never going to feel as right with yourself as when you surround yourself with people like you.
Yeah.
When
that's what we were just saying.
And just say, hey, this is what's going on. And everybody else is like, yeah, for sure. It's so great.
Well, like on this broadcast right here with this group, any one of us on the screen could share an experience and we're not going to be laughed at or made to feel like an idiot. Whereas if we go into our normal life outside of this type of setup, despite the fact that we're UFO people that are getting into Bigfoot, you guys are Bigfoot people getting into paranormal, but we all share this thing that it's the, like kind of Matt calls it, the unexplained, and we're bound together by that. So it's really beautiful. What I was going to ask you for my question here is, so in terms of viewing what they're doing, so you're taking a look, and maybe it's during the daytime, and you see a group, like you saw a group that looked a little bit malevolent, that maybe you don't want to interact with that group. And then other times, obviously, you've seen groups that, okay, I would want to interact with this group. What do you see them doing in these mean average times when they're not having humans get in their space, or they're not hunting, but they're kind of hanging around? Have you seen anything that just you're kind of like just watching them, and what are they doing?
I have no idea what they're doing. Sometimes they're in a grouping. And sometimes there's just one, and then there's another one over there. But sometimes they're in a group, and it seems to me like the younger Sasquatches kind of huddle closer together, unless they're teenagers and they're probably out on their own. But they seem to stick together, and maybe the motherly figure is right there. But the aggressive male, a lot of time, is off on his own.
Yeah, we've also heard about when a male gets to a certain age, but there's already an alpha within that group, that male, and they've talked about that when there's a male with a group of females, that will be your very well coiffed alpha male Bigfoot. And you've heard people say, I saw this creature and his hair looked like it was perfectly combed and he was clean. And then there's other ones where they said they saw one that looked like he could be an alpha and he was by himself and he just looked like hell, and just was smelly and his hair was all knotted. So that could be one of those things where they're told, okay, you're ready to go and find your own group now at this point, because I'm still young enough that this is my group. And that'd be interesting, like right, Matt, is to figure out what those dynamics are when that turn takes place and how that's decided, right?
Yeah, it's one of the great mysteries of this thing. A lot of people, it just kind of depends on your belief structure that you have on which direction you go with your own theories and opinions and everything. But in my own outings and research and everything, what I found was they definitely live in family type groups, just like we do. And then those family type groups live together in a small community. and the community is never real large in an area. They never overpopulate an area where they're going to decimate all their resources or risk getting found or whatever. Now, the question is, like earlier you mentioned, you saw one that didn't have any teeth. Obviously, if you live out in the woods, that's not a good thing. So do they take care of the elders in the group? Do they cast them out so they don't risk, any danger that they bring to the group? I've always been curious about that. Do you have any insight on that sort of thing?
So when I've seen the older ones, the ones that are what I would consider elderly, there's usually not very many of them, and they're together usually, and sometimes they'll have the younger ones on the other side of them from where the people would approach. So they're kind of like watching the kids. But I've never seen any of the elderly ones seem aggressive. Um, when I've noticed that they're elderly. So there's one particular spot that I look at quite frequently for this other team, and it's quite common for me to see the older ones there, and they're usually watching over the younger group while the other ones are off doing whatever they're doing. I've noticed, well, and so there's things that they could eat without teeth. Cattails are probably a high food source for them. Every part
Also,
of the cattail is edible.
the raw oysters, Jen, the oyster shooters. You go to the raw bar. I mean, you don't need teeth for that.
Right, sure.
So that's why donate some oysters to your local Bigfoot where there's an elderly
I love
geriatric
oysters.
Bigfoot. What's that? You love raw
Oysters are
oysters?
delicious. Yes, they're delicious.
I know. I mean, but now next time when you're doing gifting, you guys should think about that. Bring the cooler of some oysters. Jen has seen an
On a
elderly
serving
Bigfoot
tray
out
with
there.
some ice.
Yeah, ice, maybe a little cocktail sauce, squeeze a little lemon on there, maybe. There's nothing wrong with that.
There
So,
you go.
all right, let's get our last round. Money.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, we've talked with we talked with Matt about Matt, you kind of touched on it too, about theories, as to what they are, and there. I'm sure there's more than a couple of theories, just like with UFOs. What's your leading theory as to are they like a primate relative to humans? Are they some other kind of being that borders between here and somewhere else? Kind of the paranormal realm. What's your operating theory here?
Tammy, Tammy likes to lead this question.
I'd like to lead the discussion because I have to do a disclaimer. My views are my own. I do not speak for the group, and it's just my opinion based on how I feel and my experiences. I believe that they are interdimensional beings. I believe that they exist in other realms and that they can come through to our realm, and whichever realm that they go into, that is the form that they take. Like we are a 3D realm, so they would be physical when they're here. If they're in a fourth realm, they are not physical here. But I believe that is how they interact, and I believe that's how they escape so easily from us, because I think that they can just step through to the other dimension. And I don't remember who did the study, but I think that there's a theory that is out there that says that they have to concentrate in order to manifest in our realm. And when we catch them and we find them and they get shocked and they stop concentrating, and so they disappear from us. And I really resonate with that. So that is my theory on that. Jen?
And so we all have our own ideas of what Bigfoot is and what Bigfoot it can do. I'm open to whatever the answers are. Um, I'm open-minded to whatever the answers are. I have experienced some things where they just disappear and like the footprints don't go anywhere where you should be able to see them. Like at the top of a gravel pit hill, like the footprints went up, then they disappeared where these perfect circles were at. And they didn't descend the hill, and you can see footprints really, really easy in a gravel pit. Just saying, you can't hide that. So I mean, the elders from my tribe tell me that Bigfoot can travel instantaneously, physical travel through the ground from one place to the other. And I was like, okay, so like, are you talking about running really fast through a tunnel to get somewhere else? And they're like, nope. I'm like, so you're talking about like a portal, like they just zap through the ground from one place to another? And they're like, yeah. And so I, finding footprints that lead somewhere, that they disappear at these circles, perfect circles at the top of this hill, circles within circles within circles. I mean, it was crazy. But then, Jenna climbed that hill and I'm at the bottom yelling, "What's up there, Jenna? Where do the footprints go?" And she's like, "Circles."
Yes, I took pictures and sent them down to Jen.
You should watch, Jen. You should watch our episode with the Navajo Rangers. If you saw them on Unsolved Mysteries, Jonathan Dover and Stan Milbrook from the Navajo Reservation in Arizona, they told us, basically they tracked them to open fields where the footprints just stopped, and they say that, as rangers, they're experts at tracking, and they don't understand what happened to them after the footprints just end. And they're not the only guest that's told us that, by the way. So so anyway, did you want to weigh in on that as well, Jenna?
Sure.
Nathan?
Actually, and this is a crazy part. Before this year, before 2022, I would have said they are flesh and blood. They, this is my belief. They're flesh and blood. They're only able to do so much. Like we as humans can do. We have abilities, I'm sure, without all the clutter of daily life that we have. I'm sure they can do a lot more. But this year, I actually changed my mind, and I'm not really quite ready to talk about the whole situation yet. But
Okay.
as far as three-dimensional, I am now under the belief that they do move three-dimensional. Interdimensional, not three-dimensional.
No,
sorry, I'm still thinking,
okay.
but I
Yeah,
can't
we know
believe
what you
I'm
meant.
talking about this on the radio.
That's fantastic.
So
yeah, and that's good, because if you look at the people, you look at all of Cab, and by the way, on Cab tonight, Leah Prime is not here. She really wanted to be here. She had to meet with a client this evening, and we have a new cabbie, Frank, who's in the UK. So if we get together with you guys again and we do a weekend, we'll be able to get our UK guy on as well, so that he can learn about this topic. But I think all of us we've started in one position. I can remember very early positions Nathan and I talked about when we started Cab, and we've evolved. Like if you just take a position and say, okay, I'm not moving off of this despite what I see or know or experience, then what are you really doing? You guys are learning and exploring and evolving as analysts and thinkers in this genre of or this phenomenon. So I think that's awesome. Deb, she thought I was a meathead when she came to Cab, and I don't think her opinion's really changed. Hasn't really evolved
never
from that.
thought that. Never.
I'm just kidding, Deb. Love you. So last questions for Debs and Matt.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw another just completely out there question. And Tammy, you might appreciate this one, but I think a lot about the plants that are out there in the world, kind of just interacting with us in a way that's really subtle, that people with gifts can kind of pick up. People who like nature go out and touch them. And I'm wondering if that might be a contributing factor for some of the woo part of the phenomenon. Like, is there something that we're missing there? Because I don't think the Bigfoot is just in the forest because it's a good place to hide. I think there's something else. So I just wanted to know if you guys think there's something to do with the plants.
I think everything has to do with each other. All of us, the plants, the humans, the animals. I think we're all energy. We all combine. We all have everything to do with each other. Personal opinion.
And there's other researchers that have said that they've seen Bigfoots munching on leaves that had medicinal properties. So I'm sure they feel a oneness. I mean, hell, I go out in the woods. I want to physically touch the tree. The way my hands feel when I touch them is I just love to touch them. All and different kinds of bark, and there's something magical about it. I can't explain it. Matt, what you have, my friend?
Well, even even animals will eat plants if they don't feel good. You know, they will know which ones will make them feel better. So I definitely believe they use it for medicinal purposes as well.
So many questions. I have to pick one.
I love Matt Nappy.
Let's just go with this one. You said, Jen, earlier that you have worked on missing persons cases, and there is a predominant person in the cryptid world who specializes in missing person cases. And a lot of people oftentimes tie in those missing person cases directly to Bigfoot as being the responsible party. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's a possibility?
I don't know. I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about that. There's so many other things that could have happened to those people, but I do know what you're talking about, who you're talking about. In the weird cases where people are disappearing, they've searched the whole area, they're definitely not there, and then they show up there, dead or alive. I mean, in a place that they've already searched, that is weird. Like, what happened there? Um, could it be that they were taken into a different dimension and then dropped back off in a place, that they were just in a different. I mean, you hear, I mean, you think about the stories about the fairies, the fae, and the fairy rings. Don't step into a fairy ring, it could take you and never bring you back. And you hear the stories from way back about people who disappeared and they come back like decades later having not aged. And, what was that about? Was that a real thing? I mean, you hear enough stories of that worldwide where you start to think, there might be some truth to that. And perhaps that's what's happening here. There was a situation where my very first time out, where we had that encounter, we went back the next day because I was being a bully and I said, we have to go back and look for footprints. It's daytime now. Don't be afraid. And they didn't want to go. And I'm like, we can't be Bigfoot researchers and not go and look for the footprints. You just can't. You have to. We're only 5 minutes away from there. We have to. And so I bullied them. It was my car and someone else's car, and the other person had driven the majority of everybody else that was there because I came from a different direction, like hours in the other direction. And so everybody else was in that other person's car. So they were, at that person's whatever they decided to do, that's what they had to do. And so we get out there and she has flip-flops on and I said, you need to put some shoes on, you're going to get poison ivy. Oh, she's not going to do that. And she stayed on the road, did a Facebook Live, and then she's like, we're leaving. And I was just like, no,
we're out, man.
It's just right there. And it's just right there. Come on. And I had made a rule. The rule was nobody goes in the woods alone. That was my rule. And then they all drove away and I got in my car and I started to creep away and I'm like, this is dumb. This is so dumb. It's right there. I'm going to go. And so I park my car and get out and I start walking towards the sound of the first sound of something walking towards us that night. And I started to see what looked like a golden path. And there was an X structure that was there. And this golden light just went right underneath that and went beyond that. And I just felt compelled to walk that. And I was totally not in control of myself at the time. And I realized afterwards that in the middle of it, that I was in a trance-like state and I was being called to walk this way. And as I'm walking there, I heard a memory, like one of my friends yelling at me not to step into a fairy ring. They could take you and never bring you back. She used to yell that at me all the time. And I'm like, whatever. And and so I had that memory, but it yelled in my ear, this memory. And I stopped. And then I realized I was hearing someone calling to me to come that way. And I'm like, who's calling to me? What is happening here? And I got scared. So I ran back to the car. And then I'm in the car and I feel pretty safe. And so then I pull up to the spot where I can see that path and I can still see it clear as day. And I was like, well, I'm feeling pretty safe right now. So I unroll the window down and I start taking pictures. And 3 of those pictures showed the trees were circle within circle within circle within circle.
Oh, wow. That's the rings.
I was in that golden path, walked right into that.
Wow,
after
dude.
the X.
I would like to follow up with Jenna, did you get poison ivy?
I wasn't sure.
No,
I
actually,
wasn't sure.
yeah, Tammy and I weren't there.
Oh, well, I just figured.
Otherwise, she would not have been alone. We would have
Yeah.
been out there.
Yeah.
Those girls could have left. We wouldn't have cared.
I just figured.
And we
it
would not
was
have been scared.
probably-
We would have not have cared or been scared.
And see, here's the thing. I would have gladly walked through that if I had somebody with me, because at least if I got stranded somewhere, I wouldn't be alone. You know? I
Given
would
your-
totally ready to walk into it. Totally. If I had somebody with me. Jenna,
I'm
let's
s-
go. Yeah,
given
I
your
would.
abilities
You know I would.
to find the missing, can you find my missing sense of humor? Nathan, give me that.
Got it here somewhere.
Thank you. I love it. We haven't used that. I don't know the last time if we ever used that one. Man, I'll tell you what, man. You guys are so much fun. I'm sure the woods just loves you when you come out there. The woods is just like wanting to welcome you there along with Bigfoot. And obviously the fairy wanted to take Jen for a ride somewhere. Hopefully she was going to come back.
Well, and are they fairies or are they nature spirits? That's the thing. Like my tribe says that Bigfoot is in the same category as the little people. They're the same type of thing. They're just
heard that.
neighbors in the woods.
Deb, you were talking about that, weren't you, Deb?
Yeah, I just think it's interesting how they keep coming out together in the woods. They're grouping up. They're hanging out with each other, and like they help each other or something. It's kind of I'd like to know more about that too. I think that's fascinating, and it's also an international story or legend or
Phenomenon.
history. Who knows which one it is? I think it's history, right? So, yeah. And there's actual evidence of little people having existed. You know, they found fossil evidence of that too. So that's special.
This this is what's so much fun about this topic. There's just so many directions to go, and so many mysteries to unfold that I think we'll be busy for the balance of our lifetime with it, which is just fine with me. Let's go with Cabby goodbye, starting with Matt.
You ladies are awesome. Thank you for joining us and sharing all your stories with us, sharing your gifts in a field of study that is very closed-minded whenever it comes to those sort of things. You ladies have a tremendous amount of courage and bravery to put yourselves out there like that, and I truly respect and appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was really nice.
Debs.
I don't know where to begin. Like, you are doing excellent work. You're fantastic people, and you're really honest and open about your gifts, which is going to help other people be honest and open. And you're moving the topic forward. So I'm extremely grateful for that. And I'm grateful for you coming and talking to us today. So thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you for having us. Next. No,
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
no, I will go next.
The
It is great to-
co-conspirator.
It is great to have you guys on. It's fascinating to hear your sort of on ramp to this topic. It's unlike others that we've run into, and that uniqueness is really special, right? It gives the whole thing a different angle. And as someone who believes there's a lot of unknown out there, it's exciting to see those who've got the courage to sort of chase after that and follow the answers wherever they may go. And we have many questions, right? We'll continue to have many questions. So we're cheering you on as you continue in your endeavor, and look forward to hearing from you and what you'll discover.
Thank you very much. Let's do this. Let's collaborate. Let's all collaborate, share the information, and rock on, man.
Absolutely.
That was for you.
I knew that when I saw that you girls were speaking at conferences, I meant, man, there's like groups of little girls there holding their parents' hand, and they're going, wow, I can go out and do this. Me and my friends can go do this. I don't have to have a guy lead me into the woods and tell me what to do and, how to do it. And that we can just go and do it ourselves. And I think that's very empowering. And I love that. And as soon as I saw you guys, I knew I wanted to have you on. And it was right after, it was days before we had on TJ Allert, who is the executive producer of The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. If you guys have seen that on on history. We've had him on a couple of times. He's a real down home, folksy guy from Buffalo, lives in Buffalo, a Hollywood executive producer, right? And so I told him on private chat, I said, man, if you're looking to do a show, if it were me, I'd be looking to these three girls in Minnesota that, that are doing Bigfoot research, because I think people would find you guys interesting and compelling. So who knows? He is not read in on this topic, I think, and this is getting long-winded, so forgive me because this was to be my cabbie goodbye. But when I asked Matt about why on Finding Bigfoot they really didn't have success in being able to show a legitimate sound or sighting of any sort, even with the great thermals that they had. And he said, well, when you have a whole production crew out there with lights and cameras and everything else, obviously Bigfoot is not going to respond to that, is not going to want to come and get close to that. Any Bigfoot, male, female, even probably the young ones would be scared. So TJ looking at that says, well, they never found Bigfoot, but I don't think that tells the whole story. So hopefully I'll have another conversation with him again and bring you guys up. So thank you. I know you guys would be so much fun, and you were, and we're honored that you would imbue Cab with a little bit more Bigfootness. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you.
So for
Thanks for
Nathan,
having
for
us.
Debs, yes, ma'am. It's our pleasure. For Nathan, for Debs, for Matt, and for Tammy, Jenna, and Jen, this is DJ from Calling All Beings saying peace out, one love. We'll see you down the road, and we're always wondering what's up around the bend.